For our research question, we were interested in studying if there was an association between average time spent on phone and unweighted GPA of seniors at Santa Fe High School. We conducted an observational study where randomized senior advisors were chosen to collect our data and use the linear regression t-test to form our conclusion. We collected the data by obtaining a list of senior advisors. We then numbered the senior advisors from 1 to 11. We randomly selected the 3 advisors using the random int function of the calculator. We sent emails to the randomly selected advisors, which included Ms. Chrome, Ms. Yee, Mr. Casper, Ms. Hooley, and Ms. Colley. Ms. Chrome said there were complications with the dates we had chosen to collect the data, and Ms. Bolig did not respond to our emails. Therefore, we did not collect data from those 2 classes. We only collected data from Ms. Yee's, Mr. Casper, and Ms. Hooley's class on Wednesday, May 29th. From these 3 classes, we explained how to check average time spent on phone and where to find their GPA. We then handed out slips to the students which asked for their GPA and the average time spent on their phones per day.
There are 3 different ways of finding the average amount of time spent on your phone, and it corresponds with what kind of features your phone has. The first type is an iPhone that has the screen time option and the settings represented in this video by Aaron. People with this option can click settings, then screen time, then click on the columns individually for the last 6 or 7 days and find their average. The second type is an iPhone without the screen time option, represented by me. For these people, we had to go into settings, click battery, click the clock icon at the top right, then switch to the last 6 days, and add up all the time spent on all the different apps and average those. The third type of person is one with a Samsung phone, represented by Vanessa. For Samsung phones, you go to settings, then click on apps, then time spent, then click on each column and average them as well. To find their unweighted GPA, we asked people to look on Aries. The null hypothesis of our study is if the slope is equal to 0, then there is no linear association. The alternative hypothesis of our study is if the slope is less than 0, then there is a negative linear association. Assumptions for inference on a linear regression model. The first assumption we made is that the observations are independent of each other. Our data collection method was not quite that of an SRS, but it did have random allocation of advisories. We will assume this is sufficient and proceed with caution. The second assumption of our study is that the true relationship between x and y is linear. The scatterplot does not show linearity, but it has an R value of negative 0.107. We will proceed with caution. The third assumption of our study is that the standard deviation of y is consistent for all values of x. The residual plot has no shape and is approximately equal scatter above and below the x-axis. The final assumption for our study is that y varies normally about the true regression line. The MPP shows more of a power relationship rather than a linear one. We will proceed with caution. The box plot has no outliers and looks approximately symmetric.
We did a linear regression t-test at alpha level 0.05 with 8 degrees of freedom of 34.
For our calculations, we inserted the data from the 36 students we studied with average hours spent on phone in List 1 and unweighted GPA in List 2. We then calculated the t-score, p-value, and r-value by using the linear regression t-test. We then pressed less than 0 since we are trying to show a negative association between the 2 variables, and then finally pressed calculate. The results were a t-score of negative 0.596, a p-value of 0.2775, and an r-value of negative 0.1017.
We will fail to reject H0 at any alpha level. There is not statistically significant evidence that there is a negative linear association between hours spent on phone versus GPA.
Alright, you guys, thanks for watching. I wish you all the best of luck with your post-high school plans.